Okay, so welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover that day's important news items which were featured in that day's newspaper within a span of 20 minutes. So it's called Daily News in Shorts for a specific reason. We will cover the entire newspaper in a short span of time. All right. Now, today we are going to cover July 11th, 2024's newspaper. And what were the important topics that featured in today's newspaper? So let's take a look at that. Important topics to be covered. So today's topics were as following. Early diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. Well, doctors and researchers at AIMS have found out a new screening test, which would detect Alzheimer's disease or signs of Alzheimer's disease quickly. This is a big new discovery because detecting Alzheimer's disease as early as possible is the only cure for this disease because no such cure has been found for Alzheimer's disease. If a person is not infected, but if a person has Alzheimer's disease, well, there is no cure. So this is a very significant discovery, and we'll talk about this. Then European Union's Copernicus program or Copernicus Climate Change Services program actually released data on global warming. And there is some terrible news with respect to global warming, so we'll talk about that and Copernicus program. Then recently our Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has decided to visit Switzerland to actually talk about the trade deal between India and EFTA, European Free Trade Area. All right, there are a few countries in European Free Trade Area, and in that trade deal between India and EFTA, well, EFTA countries actually promised $100 billion of foreign direct investment in India. So Piyush Goyal ji is actually going to Switzerland to talk about that. And last but not the least, Upper Siang project. It's a hydroelectric project on Siang River in Arunachal Pradesh. And there are a few protests by civil society groups on the construction of this project. So, what is this project? How will this project counter Chinese hydroelectric projects? What is the significance of this project vis-a-vis China? And what is the significance of this project vis-a-vis Arunachal Pradesh? We'll talk about this. Okay, so let's start with news item number one, which is early diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. So, researchers at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, have found out a simple blood screening test, a simple blood test to diagnose Alzheimer's disease in very early stages. Okay, even when you have not caught this disease, you can find signs that in future you will catch this disease. So this is a very good test. Okay, though there are various tests for Alzheimer's disease, there are right now also, but no test actually tells you about Alzheimer's disease or signs of Alzheimer's disease early. Okay, so this is a very good, promising, and useful discovery. Okay, now these researchers at AIMS were working on this for the last 4 years. They actually were working on 90 patients between the age group of 50 to 75 because in this age group only Alzheimer's disease affects you. Alzheimer's disease actually affects old people who are more than 65 years of age. Okay, so this test was conducted on 90 patients between the age bracket of 50 to 75, and they have found a new test. Okay, researchers tested 90 patients on 6 blood markers. So basically, your blood contains various chemicals. There are 6 chemicals which are known as markers, and their values actually tells you whether you are going to catch Alzheimer's disease or not. Okay, now what is Alzheimer's disease? This is important for you because this can be asked in your prelims examination. So it is a brain condition. Basically, it's a neurological disorder. Neurological, it affects your nervous system. So it's a neurological disorder which affects your brain. And if you catch this disease, then there is decline in your memory, thinking, learning, organizing skills, basically memory. So it is a form of dementia, memory loss. Okay, and it affects mostly old people. Now, why does it happen? So basically, what happens is that there are a few set of proteins which accumulate in your brain. And when these types of proteins accumulate in your brain, then your brain's capacity to think, to remember diminishes. Okay, these proteins are called amyloid beta protein and tau proteins. You have to remember these names. So there might be an MCQ that might be asked in your exam, that which types of proteins actually are contributing towards Alzheimer's disease or have a role to play in Alzheimer's disease. So basically, clusters or collection of these two proteins causes Alzheimer's disease. Okay, now As far as Alzheimer's disease is concerned, no cure has been found yet. Though there are some medicines which reduce the symptoms if you have Alzheimer's disease, but there is no permanent cure for this. There is no identifiable cause. Why does this disease happen? There is no identifiable cause, though doctors generally say that genetic causes might be the reason, lifestyle might be the reason. Okay, your environment might be the reason, but these are just guesses. Okay, there is no identifiable cause, and it generally affects people who are senior citizens who are 65 years of age. All right, that's about it. That's all you need to know. Now let's move on to our next news item, which is EU's Copernicus program. So why was Copernicus program, European Union's Copernicus program, in the news? Because Copernicus program, or European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Services latest report said that the average global temperatures between July 2023 to June 2024 was the highest on record. Highest ever. Okay, that means global warming is on the rise. The agency, this agency, Copernicus Climate Change Services Agency, among WMO's key sources of climate data. So what is WMO? WMO is World Meteorological Organization. Okay, so World Meteorological Organization is the organization responsible for all the studies, all the management with respect to climate change. Okay, so World Meteorological Organization is a body that takes care of weather or climate of the entire planet. Not take care, but gives you data regarding that or conduct studies. Okay, now WMO gathers data from various agencies for climate change or global warming, whatever. Now, for WMO, Copernicus Climate Change Services is a key source of data. So WMO actually uses the data provided by EU's Copernicus program. Okay, and even WMO, based on the data provided by Copernicus, has revealed that in the past 12 months, the planet was 1.64 degrees Celsius hotter than in the fossil fuel era, which is, let's say, 20th century. So the planet was 1.64 degrees Celsius hotter than 20th century. Now, you know about Paris Climate Agreement, all right? And under Paris Climate Agreement, various countries have vowed to reduce rise in global temperatures by or to prevent rise in global temperatures by 2 degrees Celsius. And Paris Agreement also said that we will also try to be more ambitious and prevent the rise of global temperatures by 1.5 degrees Celsius. Okay? Now, we have already breached 1.5 degrees Celsius. We are already 1.64 degrees Celsius hotter than 20th century. Now, this is terrible news. Okay. IPCC's synthesis report. Now, what is IPCC? Intergovernmental Governmental Panel on Climate Change. So IPCC is also an organization that conducts scientific studies on climate change. It is called Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Its synthesis report has also warned that the measures to build resilience against climate change, which means that countries need to adapt because climate change is a reality now. So the measures or the steps taken by countries to adapt to climate change are largely small scale, reactive, and incremental. So there is no comprehensive program in any of the countries to tackle climate change. So even IPCC, an international organization, also says that. So we need to worry about climate change. That's what these 3 points have communicated. Now, let's talk a bit about European Union's Copernicus program. Okay, so what is this Copernicus program? So Copernicus program is a part of European Union space program. And what does this space program do? So it basically launches various satellites. So European Union's space program, under this, various satellites have been launched. These satellites are called Sentinels. And the purpose of these satellites, because basically these are Earth observation satellites. So the purpose of these satellites is to observe the Earth and observe all the weather, climate related changes on the planet. Okay. And on the basis of that data, European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Services will provide warnings, will tell you how much the Earth is warming or not. Okay. So basically these satellites called Sentinels would generate data on climate change, and that would be released to the public. Now, this Copernicus program was launched in 1998. Earlier, it was called Global Monitoring for Environmental Security, but later its name was changed to Copernicus program. Its motto is also Europe's Eye on the Earth. Now, Which three agencies actually implement this program? So it is implemented by European Space Agency, because after all it's about launching satellites. Then European Commission. European Commission is the executive arm of European Union. So European Union's executive functions are performed by European Commission and European Environment Agency. Okay, so these three organizations implement European Union's Copernicus program. Now, there were two other organizations that were named in this news. That was WMO, one was WMO, and the other was IPCC. So let's talk about these two also. So WMO, World Meteorological Organization. So it is an intergovernmental organization with a membership of 192 member states and territories. India is part of this organization. It originated from the International Meteorological Organization. So International Meteorological Organization was established after 1873 Vienna International Meteorological Congress. So IMO was established in 1873 after this congress. Okay, Vienna, that happened in Vienna. Later, its name was changed to World Meteorological Organization. So the word international was replaced by world. Okay, it was this WMO. Initially, it was called IMO, but its name was changed to WMO on 23rd March 1950 after WMO convention. And WMO is part of UN. Remember this. It is a specialized agency of UN. So UN has various specialized agencies which perform specialized functions like ILO, International Labour Organization. Similarly, to cater to meteorological functions, WMO has a specialized agency called, UN has a specialized agency called WMO. All right. Then there was this another organization that we talked about in this news, that is IPCC. So let's talk about Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Okay. So it is an international body set up in 1988. It was established by WMO and United Nations Environment Program. So remember these two organizations. It is these two organizations who established IPCC. Now, the purpose of IPCC is to conduct studies so that policymakers can use that data to make policies, climate-related policies. So to provide policymakers with regular assessments of scientific basis of climate change. So basically, they conduct studies and they generate data. And on the basis of this data, policymakers make climate policies. So it is a scientific body. Basically, it consists of various scientists conducting studies. All right. Now we'll jump to third news item, which is $100 billion FDI pledge by EFTA. So Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal is set to travel to Switzerland to meet investors. Now, why is he meeting investors? Because Switzerland is part of EFTA, European Free Trade Association. And there are various investors in EFTA who want to invest in India. Plus, EFTA, which is a group of 4 countries, Switzerland is part of those 4 countries, actually promised in March that they would invest in India to the tune of $100 billion. So basically, Piyush Goyal is going to Switzerland to solidify this investment promise. Okay. Now, the trade agreement between EFTA and India was signed in March this year after 16 years of negotiations. Under trade agreement, EFTA nations have made an investment commitment of $50 billion in 10 years. And in the next 5 years, $50 more billion would be invested. So in total, $100 billion would be invested in what? 15 years. Now let's talk about EFTA. So basically, what is EFTA? EFTA is an international or intergovernmental organization which consists of 4 countries. Okay, Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Switzerland. Okay, these are the 4 countries that make up EFTA. And remember, all these 4 countries, though are in Europe, are not part of European Union. So these 4 countries, these 4 European countries are not part of European Union. They have created their own bloc called EFTA. Now, it was formed after Stockholm Convention in 1960. Stockholm is a place in Switzerland, to promote free trade and economic integration between these 4 countries. Now, these 4 countries, the group of these 4 countries is known as EFTA, and they have various trade partners. Now, India is the 5th largest trade partner of these 4 countries. Okay. Now, the top trade partner of EFTA is European Union, then US, then Britain, then China, and number 5 is India. So, both these countries share significant trade relations. And the trade agreement between the two is an attempt to solidify these trade relations. All right. Now, what were the key features of the agreement agreed to in March this year, March 2024? What were the key features? First of all, the investment pledge we have talked about. Okay. So, $100 billion of investment is done. $100 billion of investment was part of this deal. Okay. In fact, EFTA also said that we would try to generate 1 million jobs through these investments, through this $100 billion worth of FDI. Plus, there were other things as well. First of all, the name of this deal was Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement, TEPA. Now, TEPA has provisions for mutual recognition agreements. So that means nurses in India have done nursing courses. Those nursing courses are recognized in EFTA. CA, Chartered Accountants of India, will be recognized in EFTA. Architects would be recognized. So this is mutual recognition agreement. Then TEPA, why TEPA is significant for India? Because India as of now has no free trade agreement with European Union. So India lacks access to European markets. So India can use these four countries as a doorway to enter European markets, EU markets. All right, that's about it. Now let's move on to our last news item, which is Upper Siang project. Now, two anti-dam activists from Arunachal Pradesh were put in preventive detention ahead of Union Power Minister Manohar Lal Khattar's visit to Arunachal Pradesh. Now, why these two anti-dam activists were arrested or put in preventive detention? Because they were part of groups that were protesting against the construction of Upper Siang Project Dam. They were protesting against proposed Upper Siang project, which is 11,000 megawatt hydropower project on Siang River. Okay, now this Siang River is in Arunachal Pradesh and it flowed through Upper Siang district, and that is why it is known as Upper Siang project. Okay, now first of all, let's talk about Siang River. What is this Siang River? Okay, then we'll talk about the Upper Siang project and the significance of that project. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about this Siang River. I'll come to the map in a bit, but Siang River actually originates in Mount Kailash, Tibet. Then in Mount Kailash, Tibet, and then for more than 1,000 kilometers, it flows in Tibet like this. Okay, in the territory of China. And there it is called Yarlung Sangpo or Sangpo River. Okay, so this river originates in Mount Kailash, then it flows in China for 1,000 kilometers as Sangpo. Then there is this peak over here near Arunachal Pradesh Tibet border called Namcha Barwa. At this peak, this Sangpo River takes a turn and enters Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, when it enters Arunachal Pradesh, its name changes to Siang River. Then this river flows, okay, and it is joined by another river called Dibang. And when Siang and Dibang meet, then they flow into Assam, and in Assam, this river is known as Brahmaputra. So basically, Brahmaputra River is known as Siang River in Arunachal and Sangpo River in Tibet. Okay, so this is about Siang River. All right, now let's talk about this project, Upper Siang project. So in 2017, the government proposed to replace the planned. Basically, in 2017, government was actually constructing two hydroelectric power plants or projects on Siang River. Then government decided to not construct these two hydroelectric power projects, and instead of these two power projects, government decided to construct one big single project, which was known as Upper Siang project. Now, this project would entail a dam, which would be a 300-meter high dam. And when constructed, this dam would be the largest dam in the entire subcontinent, in the entire SAARC region. So it will be the largest hydroelectric dam in India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan. All right. And this dam would be constructed by National Hydroelectric Power Corporation. Now, the construction of this dam would also cause a bit of environmental damage. And because of this, three civil society groups, Siang Indigenous Farmers Forum, Dibang Resistance, and Northeast Human Rights, have raised concerns regarding the environmental and social costs of this project, and they are protesting against it. Okay, but this dam is important for India. Why? First of all, it will generate much needed electricity. Okay, and that in electricity would not be. That generation of electricity would not pollute the environment. Plus, it won't release greenhouse gases. So, in a way, this hydroelectric power project would electricity which would not cause global warming. So for that, this project is significant. But the major reason why this project is significant is because China actually has decided to build a dam on Sangpo River. Okay, and this dam will be the largest dam of the world. In fact, At this very moment, the largest dam in the world is the Three Gorges project. The Three Gorges Dam, which is built by China on Yangtze River. Okay, so remember this. The largest dam in the world is Three Gorges Dam on Yangtze River in China. This dam, which will be built on Sangpo River, would be even larger than Three Gorges Dam. So China is building the world's biggest dam. All right. Now, if China constructs this dam on Sangpo River, what would happen? The flow of this river would get reduced. Okay, because China would be storing water over here. Now, if the flow of the river gets reduced, then flow of water or sources of water in Brahmaputra River, Siang River would also get reduced. So, therefore, Government of India is constructing a big reservoir over here so that when China constructs this dam, the river water flow would get reduced, but India would be prepared because India would have stored this water. Okay, so the flow of water in the lower reaches of Arunachal Pradesh or Assam would be saved in a sense. Okay, though China is trying its level best to reduce the water flow because China would divert water from here to its drier regions. So water in Siang River would get reduced because of this project. So government is planning ahead and constructing a reservoir to save water. All right, so this is the major reason for this. And with that, we come to an end of this lecture. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And I hope it is adding value to your preparation, though it would add more value if you are consistent with this. Okay, so stay consistent, make this lecture series a part of your daily routine, and your current affairs would be sorted. All right. On that note, I'll sign off. I'll see you next time with July 12th, 2024's newspaper. Thank you, everyone.